Well, the Jays head down to Tampa Bay and play in one of the worst ballparks in the game, and they lose. Game 1 of the 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays, 6-2. And J-Hap was on the mound, and the Jays' offense really didn't show up. And every pitcher we threw out there, they seemed to get rocked. We'll break this down in a little bit here. So, starting pitchers were J-Hap, obviously, for the Blue Jays, and Andrew Kittredge for the Tampa Bay Rays. But it was more of a bullpen day for them because, they didn't have enough guys. Yarnborough, the guy who was supposed to come in to start the game, as I said in the last video, ended up getting the victory. He went 5 innings, giving up 1 hit and nothing else. Shut down the Blue Jays. And in the very first inning, the Blue Jays got on the board. Right out of the gate, Granderson doubles, and he ends up leaving with hamstring tightness, but he does double to lead the game. Then Teoscar Hernandez, a few batters later, hits a sacrifice fly to center field. He comes in to score. The Jays have the early lead, 1-0. We go to the bottom of the third, though. J-Hap gives up a solo shot to Johnny Field. Never really heard of this guy. And the game is tied at 1 apiece. Bottom of the fourth inning, Wilson Ramos singles to right field. C.J. Cron comes in to score, and it is a 2-1 Rays lead. And then it was a fielder's choice. Denard Span comes in to score, and they got a 3-1 lead. So J-Hap struggling there early on in the first 4 innings. He does settle it down, though, and he did give the Jays, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 4 runs. But the problem with J-Hap, and we haven't seen it a lot this year, the inability to throw strikes. He did walk 4 guys in the game. Those came back to haunt him at a few points in the ball game. He picks up the loss. And everyone's going to have a bad game once in a while. This was just J-Hap's tough game. But the offense didn't help him out whatsoever. Other than that first run, in the first inning, all we got was a solo shot from Aledmus Diaz in the 8th inning. And that was it. Only 4 hits. We can break it down here. Granderson obviously had the 1 hit, and he leaves with hamstring tightness. So who comes into the game to replace him? None other than Dalton Pompey. We have not seen this guy since 2016. He was injured. He was inconsistent, was in Double-A. Then he was injured again. He had a rough ride. And he comes up and he goes 1 for 3 in his big league debut of the season, or I guess his season debut. But everybody else was 0 for, except for Maley, who was 1 for 3, and Diaz, who hit the solo shot and was 1 for 3. Everybody else, 0 for. Hernandez has really been struggling as of late. Solarte, I bet he wants to go back to Cleveland and play another doubleheader. Donaldson was 0 for 3, but the team really just struggled, and they struck out 9 times in the ball game. But look, J-Hap, he did have a rough outing. And the Jays make a move, and they made a lot of moves today. A lot of, switcheroos and calling people up, sending people down. Jake Petricka got the call up, and he had a tough inning in a third. 3 hits, 1 run. I got a couple strikeouts, but gave up the 1 run. And then you go to the Tim Meza inning, which I personally thought that he was going to try and take over Aaron Loop's ways of being our lefty guy. But he gives up 3 hits and 2 runs in his 1 inning of work. So not just was J-Hap not the greatest, the bats weren't anywhere to be found, and the bullpen, for what we saw, wasn't that great. So for the Blue Jays, you got to take this game and say, you know what, everything sucked, so let's move on. The Jays, they always have a tough time playing in Tropicana Field. I don't know what it is about it, but they always have an awful time playing there, and the Jays look to even up the series tomorrow night, 6:10, first pitch, in obviously Tropicana Field. Aaron Sanchez versus Jake Faria. Sanchez looking for his 3rd win on the season and looking for a rebound outing. His last start wasn't the greatest, so he's looking to bounce back after that one. Just a heads up, guys, that video will be uploaded later than usual, but it will be uploaded tomorrow night. Don't you guys worry about that. The Jays look to get back in the win column, though. And the finale of the series, Marco Estrada versus Chris Archer. And he is having not a Chris Archer-esque season so far. Now, it's still very early, obviously, but he is 2-2 with a 6.05 ERA. Chris Archer is really not pitching the way we're all used to seeing him pitch. You look at the way his outings have gone. He had a very good outing against Detroit in his last start. but he had an awful outing against Baltimore, a good one against Minnesota, awful against Philly, awful against the White Sox, awful against the Yankees, and awful against Boston. I think that Boston game was, I don't know, whether it was, I think that was the first game of the year. He's just really having a tough season so far. Had a good last start, so he's going to look and try and to build on that. Marco Estrada looking for a bounce-back outing after his last start. He had a great first few innings, as we've seen a lot from this Blue Jays staff. They have a few very, very good innings, and then there's one inning where they just implode. With J. Happ, there was a couple innings that kind of happened today. With Marcus Stroman, we've seen that happen. With Marco Estrada, we've seen that happen. With Aaron Sanchez, we've seen that happen. You look at the Baltimore game where he was throwing a no-hitter, and then he falls apart, and I think the Jays ended up winning that game, but it was a lot closer than we thought it was going to be. Now, look, guys, this Blue Jays, by the way, quick prospect update. It's not really an update, but I want to mention something. Did you guys see Vladdy Guerrero's third home run of the season? I think it was I think it was last night. Out of the actual ballpark. It was a bomb. If you haven't checked it out, please go check that one out. That was an insane home run from Vladdy Jr. But for the Blue Jays, this team right now, an overall garbage game today. The bats sucked. The bullpen, for what we saw, sucked. And the starting rotation, a.k.a. J. Happ, was not the greatest in this one. This is a game you're like, this is not a game you want to look back at and rewatch. This is one you want to throw the tape away right away and move into tomorrow, all right? So you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. You guys enjoyed this video, and you did not enjoy this game, smack that like button. I do appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below what you guys think of the game. How did the guys look? How J. Happ look? I want to hear what you guys have to... How did Dalton Pompey look out there? I want to hear what you guys have to say about all that stuff. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. Raptors edition. Well, rewind. We'll talk to you guys Tuesday podcast edition. Tuesday night. Link is in the description for the podcast channel and for the podcast itself on iTunes. Also, link is in the description for Twitter. Go follow up, send me a DM, do all that great stuff. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. Raptors edition as they, look to do something they've never done and win a playoff game in Cleveland and hang on to their very small playoff hopes. I know Raptor fans, but the way this team's going, the confidence of the fan base, the confidence of the players right now are probably not the greatest. So it's going to be tough, but if they pull one out tomorrow, hey, we all look at this in a different series, right? So we'll talk to you guys 8:30 tip-off there tomorrow night, and we'll talk to you guys Blue Jays edition, like I said, a little bit later on after the ball game, but it is a 6:10 first pitch. Aaron Sanchez, Jake Faria. The Jays look to end their mini 2-game losing streak and get back in the win column and even up the series against the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll talk to you guys then.